Okay, well, it's so good to see you. I'm really looking forward to catching up on your background. Welcome aboard the good ship MNN. I'm so pleased to hear you're going to become a producer.
Yes.
And in the audience, welcome very, very much to Conversations. Pleasure to welcome to the program Robert Gumbs. And he's a chairman, he's being billed as the chairman of the Concerned Forum,
Right.
which I think you're going to get many people who would want to sign on to that forum, because at their very deep sense of their own sense of identity and national concern and so forth, they are concerned with the current state of affairs, and I think it's a very good name for them. You're starting a program here, and welcome very, very much to Conversation.
It's good to be here.
All right, we were in touch with each other, and you're just now signing on, I guess, to become a producer here at MNN, and I'm happy to welcome you to it. And I wonder if maybe you could share. Gumbs is an interesting name. It sounds a little bit like Gump, you know, but it sounds like Gumbs is an interesting name. And I wonder if you could share your own background, where you were born and raised, a little of that sort of thing. And then we want to talk about, as I understand it, you're concerned about the political and economic order of our nation and the world.
Yes, I am.
But could you share your own background, please? Born and raised, that sort of thing.
Well, it's nothing too astounding. I'm born and raised right here in Manhattan.
You were, okay.
Right. Kid out of Harlem. Went to school here, went to parochial school.
Catholic school.
Catholic school,
yeah.
St. Thomas the Apostle, LaSalle Academy. And then I did a very short stay at Seward Park High School.
Okay.
And after that, I went into the military when I was 17.
You went into the Army, Air Force, Navy?
The first time I went in, I was in the Army.
Okay.
That didn't go as well as I would have liked for it to go, unfortunately.
Did you obtain an honorable discharge?
Yes, I did get an honorable discharge.
Congratulations, you got through that. That's good. Yeah. And you were you an enlisted man or officer?
I was enlisted.
Yeah. Okay.
And I came back and I began going to college. I went to City University for a few semesters.
How long were you in the United States Army? At
the first time I was in for a little over 2 years.
Were you drafted? You were
no. The draft was still going on when I went in. But I enlisted. Like I said, I was 17.
Yeah, you were just young. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I was in an adventurous state of mind.
Right. Usually people 17 are, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually you got some wild oats to sow and go out. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
After I attended City University for a while, while I was there, I had a hankering for possibly becoming an attorney. Okay. So I took the pre-law program.
Okay.
And then, for personal reasons, I decided to go down to Virginia. Richmond, Virginia. That's where my mother came from. She was from the South. And I stayed down there for about a year and a half. Then I came back up to New York, stayed up in Monticello, New York for a while. And while I was there, I felt I had some points to make. Okay. So I went back in the service, only this time I went in the Navy.
Into the Navy?
Right.
Did you, okay.
Yeah, and
So you're now about 20 years old or so, or something like 21?
Yeah, I'm in my very early 20s.
Right, you are. And you went into Navy and enlisted again.
Right.
And did you go to Great Lakes?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's where they go, yeah.
I was there. And then from Great Lakes, I went to Meridian, Mississippi, to the Naval Air Station there. After that, I was assigned as what they call a yeoman for the reactor department.
For the what?
Reactor department.
Reacting?
Reactor. The nuclear reactors.
Nuclear reactors.
Right. Okay. I was a yeoman for the department. And I was assigned to a ship, the USS Nimitz.
Oh, that's a submarine,
No, that's an aircraft carrier.
Oh, it is, you're right. An aircraft carrier, big thing. Yeah, right,
huge.
Right. Yeah,
quite large. And by doing that, I had the opportunity to see, actually to be at and be involved with most of the trouble spots.
Of the world.
That the United States was getting itself involved in. Right. At the time. The Iranian hostage rescue mission.
Okay. Mr. Carter.
Yeah, we were there for that.
In the Persian Gulf?
Right. Oh, no, that was in the Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean.
Right. We also were there when Sadat was assassinated, and we thought that they thought rather that the Libyans were behind that. I was there for that. I was also there for the showdown that Reagan had with Gaddafi when we shot down a bunch of his fighter planes.
Well, I'm not sure what that would have been. We in '86, Mr. Reagan bombed Libya because of the La Belle discotheque and everything.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, we shot his ship.
Suppose, yeah.
Before that, we were tangling with him. As a matter of fact, for the most of the '80s, I would say up until about '87, '88, besides the Soviet Union, in terms of the so-called Third World, Gaddafi was our nemesis.
He was the bad guy du jour.
There you go.
Yeah, that was Mr. Reagan had him in it, and it was
exactly.
A lot of people were upset with that bombing. They killed his daughter, you know, in that bombing. It'd be like if somebody bombed the White House and killed when Mr. Parter was Amy.
Exactly.
Which is a pretty serious breach of normal international law in the minds of many.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could back up a little. Yeoman. The yeoman is a term when you say somebody's a yeoman, it means that they're really working well at some, let's say, committee job or something. It's a yeoman. It's a thing. Well, where did the word yeoman come from, and what does it connote? Is it a rank,
well, actually,
or is it a way of being, or what?
Well, actually, it comes from England during the Middle Ages.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the only way I figure it is that you had guys who were like woodsmen, and for whatever reason, they left the forest, and when Britain was building up her navy, you know, back in the 14 and 1500s, the title just stuck.
Yeah, okay.
So in the day's Navy, a yeoman basically is administrative assistant, but he also has other duties.
It's like does it connote like a helper or a good worker or something?
Well, you could say a helper to a large extent. If you watch those World War II movies.
Yeah, and a lot of them now. You see the military channel on cable now?
Yeah.
They've got a lot of really good footage from the Second World War and so forth.
Well, the guy that you usually see standing with the sound-powered phones on over his ears, and the guns are going off, and he's calling out range and coordinates. Yeah. That's what a yeoman usually does for battle stations. Yeah. That's what I did.
How long were you in the Navy then?
I was in the Navy about going close to 11 years.
11 years. You didn't go over for 20. You would have gotten a
what
pension.
Happened...
Did you get an honorable discharge from the Navy?
Yeah.
Congratulations again that you did. There's no Article 6s or 8s or anything.
No, what happened, I was on the Nimitz for 3 years, and then after that, I was assigned to the Pentagon. And that's when they really started getting, that's when I really started getting...
concerned?
No, interested in intelligence work.
Okay. And did the interest in the intelligent work lead you to be concerned?
Yeah.
Okay, you understand where this is heading, sir.
Yeah.
What rank did you achieve in the Navy?
E5.
E5. That would be like a sergeant in the Army? See, I was in the Army.
Right, it's the same thing.
I was a very bad soldier. Were you what they call gung-ho? Were you really...
I was very good at my job. I wouldn't say I was gung-ho.
Okay.
I had some family issues at the time. Fortunately, after my first wife and I broke up, I met a very lovely young lady. Yes. And we got married while I was still stationed at the Pentagon.
At the Pentagon.
Yeah. And I have a son.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that lovely young lady passed away.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
very
2001.
Sorry. It's not fair. It's too young.
Yeah, she was very young when she passed away.
I'm very sorry.
An interesting thing is when I was at the Pentagon, I was stationed with the group, the Defense Intelligence Agency.
I know, it's huge.
Yeah, DIA.
DIA is bigger than the CIA.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I had to wait a year, actually a little over a year, for all my clearances to come through.
You would need to be DIA. You would have to be cleared. Yeah.
And
Seriously cleared, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the things that I saw, or should I say, came through my hands, disturbed me a great deal.
At the DIA, you mean?
Yeah, well, basically the whole setup of American foreign policy.
Okay, that's a big issue.
Yeah, it's a big issue. I think that one of the things I wish to do with the Concerned Forum is to try to make the average, as they would say, Joe and Jane lunchbox, aware of how much American foreign policy affects their day-to-day life.
Thank you. It's huge. It's about 20 defenses. I think it's gone up to about, after Mr. Bush, it's about 26% of GDP now.
Oh, it's much higher than that.
Higher than that?
Okay,
Are you sure?
Yes.
You got your figures. That's very interesting to me. I thought it had gone from 23 to 26 over these last decades.
No, as a matter of fact, I would say that more than half of our budget in one form or another is connected with the Department of Defense.
Are you? Okay, I want you to send me chapter and verse on that, okay?
Yeah.
Because that seems awfully high to me. Because I think the biggest thing is Social Security and Medicare in terms of the federal budget.
Well, if you notice what these politicians do, they always talk about Social Security, Medicare.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they'll mention it maybe in passing. Yeah, well, DOD. But then there's Social Security and Medicare. It'll always be something like that.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
We in this country have, we're almost, how should I say, I don't like to use the term brainwashed, but we have this...
It's an honorable term.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have this conception in mind that to touch the Department of Defense
is a no-no.
That budget is unholy.
Yeah, right.
It's unpatriotic.
Right, right.
What people don't understand, most of the time we're talking about cuts in DOD. We're not talking about the people. We're not talking about things that would affect combat readiness. You know, now some politicians who are, you know, they for their own reasons, maybe with defense contractors or you know, their own frame of mind, they might try to have Americans believe that that's the case, but it is not the case. We're not talking about having guys with boots on the ground out in the field and not being, you know, not getting the support that they need. That is not what drives up the cost of our defense budget.
It's the war manufacturing, or
well, it's the defense contracting.
Defense contracting,
and that's where the money's at.
Yeah, that's where the money's at, and that's where there's very big interest. Marriott, you know, the Boeing and the companies. In the area around D.C. Okay, around the Beltway. You know, that's what they call defense contractors, Beltway bandits. Do they really? Yeah, when I was at the Pentagon, okay, I mean, you see them every day. And one of the sad things about it, it's so interchangeable. You know, a guy will be in the Air Force. He'll be like a major or a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. And then he'll get out of the Air Force, and he'll go work for a contractor. Yeah. And then after working for the contractor, he'll work for the government again. Right. Or maybe he might leave the Air Force and go right to the contractor. Yeah. And then go to the government. Or maybe he'll go to the government and then go to the contractor. And then back again. Yeah, it's a revolving door. And it's the same with energy companies and so forth, and you know, they will say, well, you got to have somebody who knows the field in order to be able to assist the government in making good decisions. So they go back and forth, and K Street lobbying and all that sort of thing is running the government in a way that's getting larger and larger, and it's a thing that ought to be of concern to us all. Yeah, well, the problem is, it's not that. No one is saying that we want people who are totally ignorant of the Department of Defense or oil or energy. We're not saying that those are the people that should be hired. What we're saying is
those of us who are trying to reform things, what we're saying is that you have to have an effective policing, okay? An effective policing of DOD.
Of DOD particularly. We're concentrating on DOD. Okay, yeah. It's huge, yeah.
You go where the money's at. If you want to rob a bank, you know,
Willie
you don't go to a
Sutton
candy
said
store,
it,
you
didn't
go to
he?
a bank.
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly the case that you have with DOD.
Okay.
And you have a case. See, these guys, especially a lot of these folks that just got themselves elected in the last
term.
Yeah, this last election here this week.
Republicans, yeah.
They're not Republicans.
Okay.
Okay, most of them.
Okay.
My dad was one of the bigwigs in Harlem for the Republican Party.
Okay.
I come out of a Republican family.
You do, okay.
Yeah. But that was, well, the 50s and the 60s.
Right, different world, yeah.
Different type of Republican Party.
Right,
okay? If Eisenhower were in the party today, they would stone him for being a left-wing socialist.
Oh, absolutely. When he was in,
sad.
I know they had the the rate of taxation on the super wealthy when he was president got up to about 90%.
Exactly.
I mean, that was some real taxes, you know, compared to what we got now.
And we had
they still complain about it now.
And we had a great country. And also, he had an idea that we needed some kind of national health care in this country. Everybody forgets that.
I didn't realize or associate him with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things that he believed in.
They've been trying, and they haven't been able to get, unlike every other industrialized country, they've nationalized the health care industry, except the United States, it seems to me.
We have this huge mindset, and this is the problem. Why, in a place like America, which should be a paradise, we have it within our power in this nation to build a heaven on earth, quite literally.
Thank you. I think it's possible, Robert. I think it might be possible to go beyond just say within this country. I think it's very really possible now in a new kind of way to have that kind of a vision for the entire world, as much of a challenge as that is, and the ecology. In a way that's new to what's been available to us historically. Do you understand? Do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a moment of qualitative possibility.
We were on that course in this country at one time. Unfortunately, FDR died. I see a lot of
45,
things. I see a lot of things studying American history and America's influence on the rest of the world. I see a lot of things that went awry with the death of FDR.
Well, let's think about that. He got us through the Depression, didn't he? We had this terrible Depression that onset about 2930. Then he, at the advice of John Maynard Keynes, built a whole lot of institutions. He's often credited with having saved capitalism. There were people who were calling for capitalism to be put on the block. He saved it by a number of things, and then he had the New Deal that he put in place. They initiated Social Security, which is a huge instrument of income distribution and so forth. And then he made a lot of these things, the New Deal, and then he died, and then Truman became president. And we came out of the Second World War, the superpower of the world, because like Europe and the Japanese islands had been devastated. I mean, they had even into the Soviet Union, they had 20 million people, 25 million maybe, killed in the Second World War. The Russians took the brunt of that, and Europe was in devastation. And so, unlike Versailles after the First World War, we had a more enlightened thing, the Marshall Plan, where we began to build it up again. But we were the light of the world. Other industrialized parts of the world were in devastation. So it was a golden era after 45 of growth within our economy, which had not been bombed one bit.
Well, we started
out
being the light of the world. Unfortunately.
Now, is that at the end of Mr. Roosevelt's tenure, or when? When did we start out? Did we start out in 1776 as the light of the world, or how do you see things? Okay.
No. I think what happened, Roosevelt when he passed from the scene and Truman came in, we were still, how should I say, going in the right direction.
Okay.
I think things really started going south, both figuratively and literally, around 48, 49. I think that this whole thing about the Cold War, all right, I think that was a large problem. I think America or American foreign policy leaders making the choice to support the dying colonialism. Okay.
You think we supported it?
Yes, we did.
You did? You think so? That's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me.
Yes, we did.
Because the Fulton speech with Mr. Churchill, the Iron Curtain, was 1947.
Right.
And we had defeated...
that was 46, wasn't it?
Well, I would have...
46, 47.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What's a year? Yeah. But anyway, it was there, and we had fought the Nazis and had won and everything, and then... he warned about the Bolsheviks in Russia because the Russians had taken the brunt of the war, and they were worried then about communism, where in 1917 they'd made a revolution in Stalin and all that. So they took where it had been the Nazis who were the enemy, and we were in league with the Soviets in that second war against the fascists, and so then it became the Soviet Union, or communism, was the enemy of our way of life as we set it up geopolitically. Yeah. And you had George Kennan, and containment, and then you had in 1948 the fall of China. Yeah. So if you looked at the world map on this whole Eurasian landmass, you had like a big red amoeba coming out toward the rimland.
Yeah, but see, that was...
And that's where we took our geostrategic opinion of sea power in order to contain it.
And that was very unfortunate.
And that was, what should have been our policy vis-a-vis this? Let's say 1948, China's falling to communism. You got a big red amoeba coming out from Soviet Union, the heartland, down into China and down into, Asia. What should have been our attitude that geostrategically of the United States, about 1948? I think that there was Mr. Kennan's article, I think, was 48. The Mr.
Those
X
were
article.
Things that had to happen.
Okay. Where did we make the mistake?
I think the Korean War. I think that the way that we approached that was a large mistake. I think
the police action. It wasn't a war. It was a police action.
Well, when you're getting shot at, it's a war.
Okay, yeah, you would know, right? Yeah, I understand, yeah.
But I think what happened, the police action, to a point, when we overstepped our bounds.
Okay.
The United States and the Western Allies.
You're talking about Korea now?
Yeah, I'm talking about Korea.
Okay, yeah, you had the line.
And the Chinese felt threatened. Remember,
that's what caused them to invade into South Korea?
Yeah, because we went past a certain point.
Okay, we were surrounding the world with all kinds of imperialistically oriented weaponry that was
that also
containing the communism, supposedly.
People have to remember that before World War II, for the most part, we might not have been so much in favor of it, but we were not in the business of trying to liberate anybody. The British had Asia and Africa, as well as the French.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, that's true.
And
colonial. It was since Columbus, the Europeans had colonized the world.
The colonial people said, "Look, most of whom had just spent their blood and treasure. For example, Black French, Arabian French." Had fought in World War II, to help liberate France. Same thing with the British colonies in Africa.
In the First War you're talking now?
In both wars.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing Jack Pershing brought to Europe was Jim Crow.
That's correct.
I mean, it was a race. America was racist. much more than Europe.
The
That's
black
something
troops brought jazz,
yeah.
and the white troops brought Jim Crow. That's
yeah, right. You're right. You got
that's
it.
Historical
and most
fact.
of the good stuff was over on that side where the jazz beat.
Yeah.
And
you unfortunately you had intelligent people in our State Department that said, "Look, we always appear on the wrong side of history."
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's
George Ball, maybe? George Ball was talking along that way?
Yeah, but, even
but
Jack
he wasn't
Kennedy,
listened to,
Even Jack Kennedy had made that observation when he was in the Senate. Because the people that we seem to be in favor of were trying to continue to hold on to their colonies.
That's interesting to me, because it seems to me another institution that came along that period of time was the United Nations itself.
Yes.
That was formulated.
Yeah.
Eleanor Roosevelt is associated. She was largely with the International Declaration of Human Rights.
Right.
It was an idealistic organization, and it was recognizing that it was inevitable that the retreat to Europe of European colonizers was in the zeitgeist. It was going to happen.
Exactly.
We're going to come back from the colonial empires that they had established around the world. And they did.
Right.
And it seems to me I don't think, do you think the United States, like the Battle of Algiers, or the fight in Algeria, it was horrible, Franz Fanon and that sort of thing. I didn't know that you think we were in support of the colonized people of the world of Asia, Africa, and Latin America?
No, we did not support
I don't think we were. I don't think we were. Okay.
Look what happened to Patrice Lumumba.
We
set him
up. I
The
know.
CIA
horrible.
set him up.
Okay.
And he was a great African leader.
Sure was.
And we set him up for capture and ultimate execution. Look at the brother there in South Africa.
Mandela? Yeah, 27 years in Robben Island.
We were responsible for, the CIA helped to capture him.
Kenneth Kaunda and Zaire, yeah.
What was the favorite response of European and American colonial masters?
Well, I'm not sure America wasn't a colonial. We didn't have much of it. We had some. With the Philippines.
We had
We had some Philippines, and that.
We had Cuba. We had Puerto Rico.
We had Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico was an official
and
territory.
We had you got roots in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, the Virgin
So
Islands.
you were raised under the American flag down there in St. John?
No, I'm born and raised in New York. My dad was.
He was there.
No, actually, my father, when he started out, he was raised as a Danish subject of Denmark.
Yeah, that's right. It was Denmark. Yeah,
and
that's right.
The Americans bought the.
But we didn't have
we
didn't have a colonial empire. We have sub rosa. We have a capitalist imperialism that we did. But to have a colonial powers like the British and the French and Haiti, yeah.
That was a colonial empire.
But we had a non-involvement attitude toward this country. We had manifest destiny relating to the New Hemisphere. We stole the Indian the lands from the Native Americans. Delivered a Holocaust down on them, the European, from about the time of Columbus and Pizarro to the Second World War. But it was inevitable, and the United Nations had to be formed in order to handle the new nations independent that were going to come into reality.
Yeah, well, the problem with the United Nations is that the United Nations has never really been allowed to be the United Nations, quite frankly. I think that... Listen, the United States is the only industrialized nation and the only Western nation that has not signed on to the World Court.
Okay.
And I think that says a lot right there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
One of the problems with American foreign policy is that we want to try and have our cake and eat it too. We don't want to take on the responsibility of being good world citizens, but by the same token, with our behavior, we still feel that we can go anywhere on the planet and do what we want to do.
It's imperialism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's imperialism. Lenin would have called it that.
Yeah.
And we have forces in, I don't know, if Sarah Flounders tells me like something like 130 countries in the world, we have major military presence, not just a Marine Guard at an embassy or something.
No.
You know, and it's that. And then we also did with this containment. Our enemy was, in those days after the Second World War, was communism.
That's correct.
And that was Soviet Union, Eastern Europe. They were there, and then China. And it was seen as the rimland out along the edge of that. Yeah. And we had NATO we formed in Europe, we had CENTO, we had CETO, and we surrounded the Eurasian landmass that was all being informed by the Communist Manifesto of Karl Marx and the Little Red Book of Mr. Mao, and they were all reading that, and they were thinking of communism as a socialistic view of the world that took a critique of the private sector, capitalism, that was the cause in the thinking of socialist ideology of the inequity in the world, and we were fighting against that to contain that. But most of the world, 50–60% of the world, believed that the whole trend was towards socialism, where you could do away with the capitalists, do away with private property, do away with that.
Well, you got to remember
and we were
something.
fighting that.
In the United States, we have a racial problem.
Oh, yeah. Terrible.
I think we also have a problem with evangelical religions. Okay.
Thank you. Absolutely.
You got to remember something. Europe was able to send their religious nuts to the United States.
And they all came here, right?
Yeah, they came here.
Yeah.
When you go, when you travel through Europe, you don't find this whole thing of like evangelicals in politics.
That was 40% of George Bush's constituency.
They will not stand for that sort of thing.
And they got this crazy, and to my way of thinking, there's going to be 144,000 saved at the rapture, and they got this thing about the coming of Jesus.
Yeah,
and all but they believe it, and they support. That was 40% of George Bush's support.
As far as I'm concerned, people like that, they make a mockery out of the faith and spirituality, quite frankly. Okay. I'm not an atheist, okay? But I am very
You sound a little agnostic.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm very suspicious of most organized religions because I study history.
Yeah, I know.
And I see I see what happens when you allow any man or any group of men to control your mind. Okay,
or I would say I would be very suspect. I believe in the universe. We just did a program today, it aired, with Michio Kaku, who writes on string theory, and it looks like in terms of physics, the universe, which got started, he said 13.8 billion years ago in the Big Bang, is probably part, by the mathematics of string theory, of multiple universes that exist, and that means that the close, it's synergetic. The universe is synergetic. And synergy is the behavioral systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts. There's something more than the sum of the parts. So anything fundamentalist that thinks they have a take on the way the universe is set up, and then they put a God there in order to gain power and so forth within the evolving order. I'm suspect of any fundamentalist thing because the thing, ultimately, we're going to have to accept, even at another level, if we have punctuated equilibrium, and we transcend 200,000 years of human experience, and we come into a new relationship to the cosmos, that will be nested in higher orders of synergistic mystery. So any positive, any fundamentalist thing that's like a God or an economic system or anything is very suspect to me because things change and are altered with time.
Well,
if you can follow.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. I just feel that in America, we have this problem that we have a lot of, we have many people that try to substitute faith for reason.
Oh, yes.
And it was never about that. You see, I believe in the Creator,
You do?
See,
Okay.
Yes, I do. But
Okay.
I also believe that one of the wonderful things about being alive in our part of the universe is that my Creator was so deep, so cool,
Cool,
as they say,
cool Creator,
that He gave me the power of reason.
Okay, yeah.
To separate me from
the creatures,
from the other creatures on the planet.
Yeah, and the self-reflective consciousness.
Yeah. So when I use my reason, that is my hymn to my Creator. Okay, because I exalt in the fact that I was born with this ability to do this. Now,
you and uniquely, and not only that, if I may, Robert, is not only we have a self-reflective consciousness where we can contemplate things like, what's it all about, Alfie? What's the universe about? These larger issues. In fact, we have a need to have some understanding of that because we have it, unlike, say, Australopithecine. 4-6 million years ago, we were evolving up the hominoid line, and we got there until about 200,000 years ago.
Yeah, but see, that's the part of the problem. What's happened, as you saw with this last election, we have a political religious movement.
You're still back to the Christians, the fundamentalist Christians?
Yeah, because
that's a big problem, all right.
Because what they're saying is, you know, the conversation that you were going off in just now, that frightens the living hell out of them. You see,
it would,
because what that does, this candy-coated idea that they have of history and our man's place in the world,
and not only history, a view of the universe. That's the problem with fundamentalist anything.
And they attack people who are literate in science.
Right.
That's the new thing with these people. That
they used to have a thing. They used to have a political party, the Know Nothing Party.
Well, that's
back in the 19th century.
Yeah, well, no,
they celebrated ignorance.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. It's because they like Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
she is a celebration of ignorance.
It seems that way, or something that accepts almost as a accolade or something. Ignorance.
One of the problems with Obama,
or stupidity.
Yeah, see, one of the problems that they have with the president, besides the fact that he's an African American, is the fact that he is so educated.
He's smart.
He's intellectual.
Yeah, he is.
And they can't, and that drives him up the wall.
No, because it's going to come up against some fundamentalist something. They say, why do you bother thinking about trying to think things out in an intellectual way when we know the truth? There's a God there who's going to receive us into his embrace, and that's the universe, and they've got this fundamentalist faith.
Let me make this
point.
point.
It's the force of great errors in the history of humanity.
Yeah, now, although I appreciate Mr. Obama's intellect and his intelligence, I have some problems with Obama.
Okay.
Which kind of revolves around my whole concept of the concerned forum.
Yes, indeed.
Because I have some serious problems with him, foreign policy-wise, following down the same trail that George Bush took us down.
Looks awful like Afghanistan.
Yeah, and I have a very, my problem is for a man of his intelligence, he should know better, quite frankly.
Right, yeah. I don't understand that either. I've never, even in the campaign, that was always something I just really, what the hell is that about?
Could that possibly be that influence of that military-industrial complex?
Well, it could be. A lot of things, money and power follow money a lot, and there's an awful lot of money involved. I really think your figure, I think 50% is really too high for the military-industrial complex. But anyway, it's huge, and it's also gets you into a lot of trouble because you've got, now the biggest embassy in the world is going to be built in Kabul.
in Iraq, you mean?
In Afghanistan. They've got one in Iraq, they went, and that thing, Mr. Stiglitz tells us that war has cost us something on the order of $3 trillion, that thing in Iraq. And now we go into Afghanistan, and that's all going into that thing from Alexandria on. That's been the, you know, a mistake, the British, and now we go there. And it's a huge mistake, but there's a lot of money to be made in making bombers and drones and all this kind of stuff. And the weapons have finally gotten, Robert. I just talked with this fellow, Michio Kaku, who's behind string theory and understanding the universe in these very important ways, Einstein and so forth. But he said the weapons, because he was with Teller as a young man, he was brilliant. And he was with Teller, and Teller wanted him to become a star warrior. And the weapon systems now apparently have become now species lethal if they were to be unleashed. Yeah. That if the weapons that exist on hair trigger alert were to be unleashed, unlike as recently as the Second World War, if they were to be unleashed, it would mean the end of the entire Homo sapiens species. Do you realize what an existential new reality that is?
Right.
And it's never mentioned, hardly at all. It's there, maybe deep in our understanding, but then the implications of what does that connote in terms of the larger development of affairs.
Well, see, here goes the problem.
And particularly what on the positive side might be is equally existentially significant as that signal, like punctuated equilibrium in evolution, where we're coming to a new way of being, that we may have gotten over a lot of the problems that have arisen over the historical pattern of material scarcity. We may have the ability to let this planet be liberated in a way that it never has been. So it may be a liberating time that's before us. Do you understand?
Yeah,
can you follow all that?
I do.
Yeah. And that's the time that we're cursed or blessed to be born into.
Well,
most incredible, interesting time in the history of humanity.
In answer to that, I will tell you that as long as the United States of America has, as long as we think the way that we do in this country, put it that way, this world will never move to any type of progressive direction, as long as politically we think and act the way we do in this country.
Okay.
Iraq, there were no weapons of mass destruction.
That's right.
So why were we there?
Well,
if that was the case,
April Glasby.
Yeah. Why are we still there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I come to your home,
they just had another big Shia uprising there, and there's going to be trouble there still, probably.
As long as our influence.
Okay, what's going on in our thinking? What is it? Is that protecting strong military, industrial, complex economic interests in our economic order? Usually the politics can be very easily seen through the prism of economic advantage of some group.
I think that Americans, especially working class Americans, I think they scare too easy.
They're scared too easy.
They scare too easy. Mm-hmm. And they allow politicians, instead of politics being a search for knowledge, mm-hmm. Politics is, in America, politics is just
PR.
Yeah, PR. Mm-hmm. Who can get the biggest slice of the cake?
It's like
and that's it.
Maybe it's got to do like with the strategies that our various communications industries, what they really want is to get something that's going to keep the attention of people, let's say multimedia, television. The world's rapidly moving toward multimedia, and the multimedia, they want something that's going to get the attention of what they call eyeballs, that are going to have and keep the attention, and the attention span's moving so quickly now and everything, but they'll keep the attention so that the thing is you fit some programming in between the really important things, which are the advertisements, which get people to buy cornflakes rather than Wheaties. And it's a marketing kind of thing that motivates the whole thing, and that becomes, it's all a model of marketing advantage to be attained, and that indicates, in a certain sense, some people would say, well, they're creating unwanted needs by people, but other people would say what they're doing is they're competing fiercely for the totally inadequate buying power that's in the hands of, let's say, the American people, that if they were well situated. You wouldn't have to compete to get their attention. They would just get that which they want, but it's just the fact that they don't have buying power or money in their hands, which would be the way in which a society that's liberated is. People wouldn't be concerned with those things. They would have the ability to have what they either want or need in a reasonable context, and we don't have that because our system won't allow us to do it, because it was all formulated within a context where our institutions are not able to consider that there is enough for everyone. Now, and the ecology, which might be the promise of the time in which we live, but it's the problem of the media and communication, ultimately, and education.
Right.
Or edutainment. I had a program with a lady from St. Vincent. She used the term edutainment.
I like that.
That's a good term. But anyway, just a couple of thoughts, if you can
now,
weigh in.
One of the things that the Concerned Forum is going to do, on the 17th of November, we're having a meeting right here in Manhattan. 100 West 12th Street. 100
West 12th Street, that's down near the new school.
Right, apartment 6D.
Apartment 6D, okay.
Yeah, and
it's all set, the venue's set and the time? What time of day?
It's going to start at 6 o'clock.
In the morning or the evening?
Oh, I'm sorry, 6 o'clock in the evening.
6 o'clock in the, good. I like that better than in the morning, I think we're in the right, I thank you again for that. Yeah, okay,
I like that. And what's going to, it's just going to be a small thing.
Well, from little acorns grow great elms or oaks.
That is the hope. I
right,
like that.
That's what Margaret Mead said,
Yeah. What it's going to be about, we have the results of this election that we had
to contemplate,
Right. What we have to do, and this is mainly talking about Democrats, because I don't care if people dislike the Democratic Party, if they have a problem with the Democratic Party. Right now, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, at this point in American history, the Democratic Party is still, for the mainstream, the vehicle by which progressive thoughts and ideas in government, that's where you find it.
I believe with that. And then I had a program earlier with how do we define progressive. Right. But in generally, I think
let's say liberal.
Liberal used to be a very, liberal was a word of great, to be celebrated.
It's a good word.
Reagan and so forth really attacked it.
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you make that point. Because I'm very glad you
liberal
made that point.
Is the best tradition, and politically all the way back over the centuries.
It's a good word.
It means intelligent, really, knowledgeable and intelligent.
Correct. And as a matter of fact,
liberal arts.
What you just said, I'm going to start going back to using the word liberal as opposed to always saying progressive.
Yeah, okay.
Because liberal is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we should not let the cretins of the right wing scare us from using a perfectly good and acceptable way of expressing who we are and how we think.
Okay, that may be self-serving, sir.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that liberal be the good people, that'd be us. That way, other people could say conservative be the good thing, that'd be us.
There you go.
And you got all these politicians saying, do you notice they're all saying the American people want this and the American people want that, and it happens to be lined up with their political interests in that. But that's a good thing,
Right. And what we're doing, I'm not saying that we're trying to become a Tea Party for the left.
Well, no, that idea that something liberal or really that has some gumption on the left, similar to what the Tea Party did for the Republicans could do for the Democrats, including support a strong stance by our president, maybe.
Yeah, because
in the minds of some.
That's what the discussion is going to be
in
about.
support of liberal values.
Right,
rather than cringing from the title that they
Exactly.
put over on us. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right, that's what the discussion is going to be about. Because unfortunately, and I have a great deal of respect for President Obama.
I do too. Yeah.
Wonderful family man. Love his IQ.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And his spirit. Yeah.
Yes, but unfortunately, when it comes to throwing a punch, for some odd reason, he consistently holds back.
I think a lot of good people very often do hold back from lashing out with emotions of hate and fear in the name of trying to understand things and to try and, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to lash out. And if somebody can be thoughtful and restrained, I think he's got liberal values and understanding as opposed to emotional cretinism,
right? But when you're,
which is a great deal.
Exactly, but when you're walking down
a dark alley, in Brooklyn,
it's not the time
to
for
be
platonics.
To be doing a.
Sometimes you have to be a politician, and you have to have you have to fight for your platform.
I just did a program last week that aired with the Channers. They were related to me. They were from England, and they had been raised in India, and their father, they were Sandhurst, they were military,
right.
And their father had become a general officer in the British Indian Army, and he had won the Victoria Cross at battle in Malaya. But then he'd become the commander of the outpost at Kandahar in Afghanistan, 19th century. And they all had been influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, the whole family.
Right.
And the David Channer, who was this gentleman we did a program with, and his son, Dr. Alan Channer, they had done a program of Raj Mohan Gandhi, who was a grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, was running for president of India. And they said he was running, he didn't have a chance to win because he was a moral good man. And in order to win in politics, you cannot be moral and good. You have to be nefarious in order to win in politics. Sorry, do you think that's true? Or that the politics corrupt as... they say, what is it? They say, what corrupts? Power corrupts. Power corrupts. Tends to corrupt.
Yeah, I think I'm guided by what Martin Luther King said about that same subject you bring up, where he said sometimes I'm probably getting this wrong, but he made the statement that there are many times when the politically expedient is also the morally righteous.
Oh, it'd be nice if they can be. Yeah.
Let's look at what.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Let's look at what the president did with the health care debate.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't even put a public option on the table.
He would like to have, I think.
The majority of the people, when asked,
would want
everybody's talking about polls. The poll said, hey, over 70% of the American people, this is what they want.
Yeah, it just went right off the table.
They wouldn't discuss it.
Yeah, well, we're going to come up to a knot of negotiating between these Republicans just take the House.
The whole thing about closing down Guantanamo.
Yeah, right.
That should have been done.
Get rid of rendition. There's a lot of things that could be done in the name of just good sense,
And also, this also in the name of good sense, and also some type of moral, how should I say, some type of moral belief, this thing about blowing up people with these drones that we're doing.
Well, that's a thing where you can go and do damage from afar. It's a very dangerous metaphor, and it's becoming possible where you don't have to put your soldiers at risk. 19th century, 20th century, it used to be, 19th turn of that century, that in the fighting between the nations, between the people over scarce resources, somebody wants to get more advantage for their tribe, to have more to eat, and advantage in realpolitik and everything, that in the fighting, it was one civilian death for every 19 young men fighting in the meadow with rifles, to where it went for 9 deaths civilian to every one military death with the firebombing, Dresden, and these kind of things. And the weapons have now become where that becomes really big, because again, it should be underscored. It should be on the wall 27 feet high that the weapons are now species lethal.
But see, the problem.
You understand? Do you hear that?
Yeah, I understand.
The whole species can be wiped out, and that's an existential signal of something new. In terms of, we couldn't do it in the Second World War. We couldn't even do it when Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Atwood were working out the missile thing in Cuba. Right. There would have been some survivors if we'd let it go then, if Khrushchev hadn't called that off. That was a very close call. It would be the end of a good deal of civilization.
Right.
But we now, Robert, can destroy the entire Homo sapiens species, and perhaps...
I know, about 16 times over. That's what it was when I was at the
No, but what I'm trying to get
yeah.
at, there's something new. That's a signal, like you're in the birth canal. That's a signal of something different than the historical order, 200,000 years. And then the main question confronting us in terms of setting a template is, what's the existential equivalently significant thing on the positive side? One suggestion from some of our best thinkers, liberal and otherwise, is we have, in terms of our technologically augmented capability, transcended for the first time about 1970, the same time that the weapons became species lethal. We have transcended material scarcity as an ontologic reality. There is enough. There never has been enough. We've always evolved out of a condition, and all our institutions were in a condition of scarcity. We have transcended that since about 1970. We've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. And we have to get, that would be a grounding premise by which one takes the context within which the institutions could be formulated.
The problem...
It may be liberating.
Right. The same problem exists, however, talking in terms of politics and foreign policy, that when you send drones to kill people, what you're doing, you're making enemies.
Oh, absolutely. Just in Pakistan yesterday, 16 or 23 more killed.
This whole business about the war on terror is, quite frankly, it's the most ridiculous thing that we've come up with since, what is it, Coca-Cola 1. You know, that came,
they had Coca-Cola. Yeah, I remember that.
New Coca, whatever the heck.
That's the big ad campaign. Yeah,
this whole thing about it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
There can be no war on terror. Terror is a tactic.
Right. Exactly right. So some of these issues you're raising, you're going to raise in the Concerned Forum.
Oh, most definitely.
And I think we've only got a little bit of time left. So why don't you is that set, or is that something?
That's it.
November 17th. What day of the week is that?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. And it's going to be 6 p.m.?
Right.
At a particular apartment downtown?
Right. 100 West 12th Street, right off 6th Avenue.
Yeah, but what apartment?
Apartment 6D.
Okay, now you're going to give me a notice of that? You're going to send me an email? Because I will attach it to the email when I announce this program with you that's going to air next Thursday.
Yes, I am.
So you can, and you would suggest people come to that if they have any concerns about the human condition?
Well,
I think you better be careful, because I think that would include virtually the entire population of New York City.
Well, actually,
you're going to get in the Yankee Stadium.
No, what this is going to be about, this is going to be a meeting, like I say, mainly about the direction of the Democratic Party.
Okay, good. Okay.
In line with these issues.
Okay. Can I come? Can I come?
I would hope so.
I would like. You were going to get that to me now, tonight.
Oh, most definitely.
As soon as you get home, you're going to send me that information.
I most certainly will.
Your pleasure to have the perceptions of Robert Gumbs in, and he's a new producer here at MNN. Welcome very much.
Thank you.
The Concerned Forum, he's the chairman of, and there's going to be a meeting down there at downtown near New School. Thank you, Robert. It's so good. I'm glad you got all those honorable discharges. And I'm also very glad that you've been able to get all of that good work done for the Concerned Forum, which is something that is, I think, going to attract a lot of attention, because a lot of people are thinking of the need of such. And I thank you for helping to fill that unmet need.
You're welcome.
Your pleasure to have his perceptions. Tune in. We're coming back again next week. That's it for now, Robert. Thanks again for everything.
Okay. Thank you. So now
So,
what we do?
we just sit until the graphics roll. They're rolling them again, so we'll do that.
That's me.
Yeah, there you go. You're on TV, young man, and that's good, you see.
Hey, listen, Harold, Brother Harold, I don't know, man. I want to thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You gave me my shot.
No, it's not your. It's the shot that is really needed. It's the very thing that's needed now. People coming together and to invigorate the Democratic Party and to try to bring the flag of liberal. Liberal is such an honorable word.
Yeah.
And how they let us snooker us out of that, I don't know. And
the Democratic Party we're letting a bunch of greedy corporate dogs and a bunch of ignorant Southern idiots, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to dehumanize people too much. I know that I'm not supposed to do that.
But we've got to get some salty going on.
Well, we got to get, we got to get our point.
Let's get gung ho behind this, huh? Is that the idea?
Yes,
yeah.
Because it's wrong. What happened at that election Tuesday? Not that it happened, but the way that it happened. It was wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need, if you nail Obama for these two stupid wars that we got going on. Don't nail him for things that he really had nothing to do with. Nail him for not fighting for a public option.
All right. Well, and the politics of it, and understanding.
You got people, and this is what's so sad. And I try not to get too racial, but you have a lot of white working class people, especially in the South. If you come out with a program to help them in their lives,
they won't vote for it.
They're going to call you a commie.
But they're going to throw